Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started here this morning. Thank you all for joining us for a CASFA training session on financial literacy. My name is Whitney Asher. I'm the Assistant Director of Financial Aid at Barton Community College, and I've had the pleasure to be involved with this committee this year in putting these trainings together. Today we have a couple of really great presenters for you on a topic that I think a lot of us have a lot to learn on, including myself. So I'm excited to even get to listen to this one this morning. This morning we have Leticia Gradington from the University of Kansas, and she is going to be kind of leading the presentation. She's currently the Director of Student Money Management and Services at KU. And joining her also is Ivory Smith, who is the Financial Aid Coordinator and Default Management Specialist at Johnson County Community College. So thank you, ladies, for doing this for us today. I think it'll be a wonderful training opportunity for all of us. A couple of things before we get started. I do want to remind you that this session is being recorded. We will post it out on the CASFA website once the training is complete. So you can refer back to it or share it with your cohorts if they aren't able to join you today. Other little housekeeping items, as we're all very familiar with Zoom now, make sure you keep your microphone on mute if until you maybe have a question to ask, and then you of course can unmute at that point in time. If you have video and you want to keep it on, that's fine. If you notice that audio starts to lag, go ahead and turn it off. That typically helps clear up that problem. We have several that are going to be joining us yet today, pretty full session. So a lot of times if audio and video start lagging, those videos can be turned off to help that problem. We will have an evaluation that we'll send out at the end of the session. Please take your time and complete that evaluation for us. It really helps us in serving you. We want to make sure we're meeting your needs and using your time as best you can. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to our presenters today. So Leticia, you want to take it on?
Yes, good morning, and thank you for the introduction. And thank you for the opportunity, one, to be here to present. I truly am engaged in financial literacy and financial education because I believe it's an important part of what we do, especially in a university, college environment. Money matters. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through and identify some pieces of the puzzle for financial literacy. And I really don't like the term financial literacy. I think financial education is a better term, but most people in our arena are used to financial literacy. So that's the term we'll go with. And we're just going to talk a little bit about what is financial literacy. I'm very passionate about it because I have more degrees than a little bit, and it was way after I received all my degrees that I began to learn the things I should have learned when I was in school going through the process. So that kind of ignited the fire for me. And it's been my passion ever since. So we're going to talk about the missing semester, final decisions, beginning with the end in mind. We will go over the 5 pillars of money management. And I'll talk about that with about college students and just the trials and tribulations that they go through with money. We'll talk about money is part of the puzzle. And we'll give some tips to help you counselors with students, and then talk about our last and final presentation. So let's start. Can you see okay? Is it all right? Uh-oh. Okay, so let's start out and define financial literacy. Financial literacy is really the ability to understand your finances, but more specifically, it refers to the individual's ability to make informed judgments and effective decisions about the use and management of money. That is really important because if we don't understand money, then we have a problem. See, we understand how to make it. We understand how to spend it, 20, 40, 60, 81. That's not the issue. The issue is understanding how to make our money work for us in a more defining manner. So let's define the areas of financial literacy. Your green colors are more or less your basic financial literacy and understanding. That's your day-to-day survival. The blue is more for retirement, investment, and risk management. Those are the things you're doing to prepare later on. So there is a wheel of life here. And in this financial literacy wheel of life, you have self-motivation, you have budget planning, consumption habits. I can't say how big that is. You know, how we spend our money has a lot to do with how we feel about our money. Okay, and I'll talk about that a little bit. Debt administration. At some point in time, we're all going to have debt. Debt isn't necessarily bad. It's just learning how to manage the debt you have in accordance with the money that you bring in. So debt management is huge. And savings is the other side, especially for our students. Most of the time, students think that they don't have money. Okay, and at the end of the day, they do have money. Whatever amount of money they have, it really should be managed. And it's teaching the students how to do that. See, I've seen the students that get the refund checks from financial aid that, you know, are $600, $1,000, or $1,200. And what these students do, not knowing that this is money that will help pave the way for their education, you know, some students will go out and they feel like they've hit the lottery, right? And they're out buying the big screen TV that doesn't fit on the dorm wall. And literally, you know, it's just managing that piece and understanding that money is to help them with their education. In our office, we do talk a little bit. No, we actually talk a lot because the students are really interested in investing and planning for the future. So we do have that conversation with our students as well. Now, fitting the pieces in the puzzle, like I said, we have several nuances, and budgeting sometimes it depends on the mindset of someone that uses the word budget. Okay, budget, sometimes people think that it means, hey, I'm telling somebody how to spend their money, or I'm going to tell you what to do with your money. No, personally, I believe, you know, the word should be spending plan, and meaning that you plan to spend your money. A budget does nothing but help you to plan for the things that you would like to do. It takes the randomness out of managing your money. Savings is important. Our young folks are missing out on the most important time in understanding their money because, you know, just helping them, if they have a job and they're putting money in the bank, it's helping them to understand that they can save for their future. But they have to understand, you know, cash, they have to understand expenses, you know, and basically what the whole big picture is. Ivy, did you want to jump in on that slide?
Yeah, so sorry, I couldn't get to my unmute button.
You're fine.
So with here at Johnson County Community College, we don't award students the additional unsubsidized direct loan. We actually have them meet with myself or another coordinator, and then we go through and see exactly how much their standard monthly repayment will increase if they borrow that additional money, so they can kind of see what that does. And if they really do need the money, we kind of talk about, you know, their budget, because they come in the office and we're like, okay, how much additional, you know, you can get an additional 2,000 or an additional 6,000. How much more would you want? And some of them will say, I don't really know. So we'll sit down with them and we'll look at their budget. You know, how much, you know, are you off campus? Are you, you know, we'll talk about what expenses are they trying to cover, and then we'll come up with that amount that they would need. So that way it keeps them focused, and so they only take out what they actually will need to, you know, and not over borrow.
Okay. And I think that's really good. We have those conversations with students as well. And we actually have some students that, you know, do the math and they take that extra money back because they don't need it. But before they do, you know, we make sure we take into consideration emergency funds and things like that, which is important to the survival and the existence of our students on campus. The missing semester is always interesting to me because that's what I call it. I think this is the semester that's really missing. This is the semester that we need to have personal finance be an important part of the core of what we do at educational institutions? Because one, finances it's important. There are two things that most students stress out about on campus. Number two and number one, finances and academics. Those are the two stressors, right? So let's talk about the missing semester a little bit. Sorry. Okay, so what I'm gonna do really quickly is we're going to look at a real short video on why financial literacy is important to students.
What is student loan default?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Default?
Default.
Default. Anybody?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. No clue.
No idea?
No idea.
Default. Default or default?
I'm not even completely sure about that. Isn't it that when you didn't pay it on time, I feel like?
I believe that is when you cannot pay it.
To go in default, I think that means when you're supposed to pay, but you can't.
So what's your credit score? Do you know it?
My credit score? Shoot, no, I do not know my credit score, actually. No.
You got a guess?
No.
My credit score?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
No. Huh.
I don't know.
I don't even know what a credit score is.
I think 600 is good. I'm guessing it's up there.
I guess perfect, I think.
What is the interest rate of your student loan?
I would guess like 1.5% or something.
I don't know. It's like,
I think it said something like 9%. Most of my student loans, the subsidized ones, I feel like that's the one that actually does accrue interest. I only have one of those, but I think it's around like 9 or 12%. I'm not completely sure though.
no, because it's unsubsidized, so it doesn't accumulate interests yet.
But when it does, do you know what the rate will
No.
be?
I really don't. I should know. It's kind of important.
Do you know what the interest rate on your credit card is?
No.
No idea? Do you have credit card?
Yeah.
Do you know what the interest rate for that is?
My mom handles all that stuff, but I know, like, I obviously listen to some of the stuff that she says, but it goes in one ear, not the other.
How many days was Kim Kardashian married?
72.
72 days. 72?
Oh, it's funny. It's like my girlfriend just told me the 72, I think. 72.
72.
72 days.
Okay. Who is Justin Bieber's girlfriend?
Selena Gomez? Selena Gomez. Selena Gomez?
Selena Gomez.
Selena Gomez?
Uh-oh.
Learning about your finances and making good financial decisions is important to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely important because, I mean, I have a buttload of loans that I need to pay off by the end of this, school year.
So how do you plan on getting that information?
I'll start talking to my friends and family, especially my dad, because he knows all about it. And, yeah.
You're going to talk to your friends?
Yeah.
This friend?
Hi.
If this information was available to students, how would you best like to receive it?
Well, classroom would be nice if that was just a required course, but then the problem is, I mean, mean, that might not really help you directly with your major, but it helped you in terms of life a lot.
I think more on a one-on-one basis, or having like somebody like a mentor or something.
You know, through any social networking means, Twitter, Tumblr, websites, et cetera, et cetera.
Video and online. I'm a more visual person.
And how would that information need to be presented in order for it to stick in your head?
Maybe not something in such a monotonous tone, and maybe in little bits, not so like long, like.
I think repetition is really important for me personally, and examples or practice and people actually saying what happened to them, so that I know in the future, oh, if that happened to me, what would it kind of be like?
Keep it short, keep it simple, concise, make it fun.
It should be relatable to students.
All right. So that is really why financial literacy is important to our students. Our students need to know. Education is the main piece of our puzzle, but you know, I always say this, and I say it with passion and heart, and that is, if you think education is expensive, wait and see what ignorance costs you. You know, we've got to do better to educate our students. And I think in the video, the students did a great job of letting us know how they want to get that information. And I think we have to be in tune and in touch with that, because the education piece is, to me, the most important piece. So let me share some numbers with you. I think that the numbers really tell the story. University administrators state that we lose more students to credit card debt than we do academic failure. And most of the students that are walking away have a 2.5 or higher. So they're really getting into a situation with credit cards. But I think the most interesting fact is most freshmen that hit a university campus have 3 to 4 credit cards already in their financial house. And 45% of administrators state that credit card debt, the average debt is $3,000. So we already have students arriving with credit cards. Now they have credit cards, and now they have to make the most important decision of their life, and that is taking out student loans and the grandeur of it and not understanding it. Because I believe student loans aren't bad, but I believe student loans need to be managed. And I say this all day, every day on our campus, financial aid is your friend, but you still have to do the math. And that's where I believe, you know, engaging with your students, having that conversation. If you're a counselor, one of the things that I do with high school students, because I work in the high schools here in Lawrence, Kansas, when I sit down with students and they say, hey, I want to go to college, I'm like, okay, we talk about the colleges they want to go to, but we also talk about the numbers. And their assignment is to go back and find out what the tuition is. How much is housing? What are the meal plan costs? And we put those numbers down on paper for all the institutions that, you know, they want to attend, or their top 3 or 4. And believe it or not, by the time we get done, the students make very good decisions, but they make good financial decisions because they're in touch with the numbers. Do you need to have a $3,000 meal plan? Maybe not. How many times do you eat in a day? Maybe you just eat dinner, or do you eat all 3 meals a day? But those are the kind of questions that we engage students with to help them understand the numbers. And when you have students that are already coming on campus with credit card debt, then it's a double whammy. So understand, you know, coming in, they're coming in with it, but also they're leaving with a double whammy. See, now they're leaving with credit card debt and student loans. So, you know, we really try to manage that and help them as far as credit cards. The bad thing about it is some of these students have credit cards that have outrageous interest rates. And when I say outrageous, I mean outrageous. I had a student come in, and this student had a credit card that had an interest rate of 35%. And I was like, oh my goodness, let me look at that card, right? And as soon as she handed me that card, trust me when I say I got my little scissors and I went snip, snip, and I cut that card in half. Now, the reaction was interesting from my student, because my student was like, you know, and my response to that was, that's what you should have said when they gave it to you, but you weren't educated enough to know that. Now, to end the story on a nice note, We did turn around that same day and replaced her card, got her another student card, educated her, gave her the fundamentals of what to do, what not to do. And, you know, because she had just started using that card, she was checking in, making sure she's doing okay, how to read my statement, things like that. So I think, you know, engagement on that level is just really important when we have an opportunity, because I believe anytime we're in front of students, it's a teaching moment. And when we have a teaching moment with students, that's what we should do when it comes to money, you know, and their understanding of money and spending it. Sorry. So let's talk about financial literacy, because, you know, some decisions being made by students are unguided. So what does that mean? That means that students are out there making decisions without really understanding the guidelines in the decisions that they're making. And some of them don't realize that they're making some of the most important, you know, personal finance decisions that are going to be with them for a while. And when you think about, and, you know, on an individual level, think about it as well. You know, every day we make 6 to 10 monetary decisions, whether it's going to Starbucks, whether it's you're in the evil empire called Walmart, you know, buying and spending money. Are you making good decisions? You know, do you need everything that you're in there buying, or do you want it? And sometimes, to me, financial education is teaching yourself when to say no, you know, and those are the things we have to work with students with to help them understand right now, you know, education is most important, you know, and it's not about things. And most of the time, students are buying stuff to impress people that don't like them anyway. You know, so question why you purchase, why you spend money. Because I always think, you know, it's just really interesting when you really do that math behind it. So some decisions being made by students are unguided because they don't understand the importance of their personal finance. So I want to take the 1.8 million college graduate seniors from this year and just really kind of see what happens when students don't understand the impact of their financial decisions. Meet Jeremy. Jeremy's 22 years old, studies English, $25,000 in student loan debt, $4,000 in credit card debt. If he's lucky, you know, he'll land a job making about $35,000, you know, in his first job. That's not the salary for all students. This is an example, with a take-home pay of about $2,300. So Jeremy will make 5 decisions that will have an impact on his life for years to come. He won't make a budget. He believes that he doesn't have enough money to budget anyway, so why bother? Well, that's really not good, because you have to manage the money that actually comes in. And there is, you know, depending on what you have essentials, lifestyle, and future. And, you know, you really shouldn't spend, you know, anywhere from 50 to 63% in essentials, but it really should be 50% instead of 63. So when you look at the numbers, he's spending way more money than he should be. And then his lifestyle, you know, it shouldn't be any more than 30%. He's good in the lifestyle, but the essentials is where, you know, he's really spending money. So it's sitting down and understanding what he actually spends and what the recommendation is to help him to understand the boundaries. He'll move to a big city. He'll get an apartment for $1,200 a month and never have a chance at a balanced budget. Everyone in America has debt. Why should I worry about it? You guys would be surprised, but that is the mentality of some college students, and not just some college students, some people, you know, in everyday life. But paying only the minimum payments on debt obligations and even missing them, you know, really hurts you. So he probably won't have an emergency savings, which emergency funds, that's the foundation of a financial house, is to be able to exist if, you know, you have an emergency. And that emergency is going to happen because life doesn't discriminate. And, you know, things are going to happen. You just have to be prepared. And that emergency fund, I define to students, can be different. When I was a student at KU, emergency fund for me was being able to go buy a plane ticket and get home, because my parents were in California. So if anything happened to them, it wasn't no question. about who I was going to call because I wasn't calling anybody. That emergency was, I need to get home. I need to get home now. Now for college students too, it could be anything. It could be replacing a tire. It could be buying, something essential. If you ride a bike, it could be essential. So each student will definitely have to figure out what that emergency is and plan accordingly. And now when you don't have an emergency fund, what happens is we go and rely on the credit card. And then before you know it, you have credit card debt beyond measure, right? So it's learning how to manipulate within those boundaries. The other big thing is, and I always say when I'm talking about, money and negotiating salaries and things like this, you have to think about what the mentality is for people with money, because everybody's relationship with money is not a good thing. And I'll give you a quick example. I have the Upward Bound students during the summer. And one of the first questions I ask them when we start, we have like 6 to 7 weeks together. The first thing I have them do is write an essay. And the essay is on how do you feel about money and how does money make you feel? And the only thing I could tell you guys is when those essays came back, they literally broke my heart. Just to see the different outlooks that people had on money. Some of my students thought it was good, some thought it was bad. They didn't want to talk about it. Some money is evil. And no, it's not. And those are some of the things that we have to debunk as we talk to our students, because each student is different. So we really have to look at that. So in negotiating his salary, Jeremy, he'll be so thankful that he has a job that he's not even going to talk about money, right? And we have to get comfortable, because even in negotiating a salary, the most they can tell you is no, but at least you're talking about it, which is really important. And of course, he's not going to think about retirement, and retirement is a part of that wheel. Now, do they have to save for retirement right now? Here's what I'm going to tell you. Time is money. And yes, they should be thinking about it, not stressing about it, but at least thinking about it, because where you save your money is important. You've got to take advantage. I have students right now that are working in jobs that have matching 401ks and they're not taking the free money. That's education, right? So, we have a lot to teach our young folks, but, I think saving is probably more important than anything, because if we teach our students to save, and I just love it when I see my students getting excited about saving, or they'll come and tell me, hey, Miss Leticia, I just, my bank account is at, $2,500 now. I mean, that's exciting. But in your 20s is where, the real investment starts to happen in your future, because the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost you. See, my nephew has been in a Roth IRA ever since he was 16 years old. And to me, that's a powerful impact, because that means that his future will be a little bit brighter because he started earlier. So, it's really channeling the mentality and helping them understand the financial journey that they're going to take. That journey is not just in college. That journey is when they graduate. What will we have taught them? That is going to be the question. So let's fast forward 15 years and let's see how Jeremy's doing. Okay. He's got $10,000 in student loan debt, $20,000 in credit card debt. His credit score is 570, less than $10,000 in an IRA. And, at this point, he could be married and not planning for his kids' future, right? So, this drags on into their life once they leave our universities and spaces. So this education, to me, I feel is detrimental, to their well-being. They have to understand their future. So let's think about the national impact of Jeremy's story. Let's multiply this by 1 million. And then let's multiply Jeremy by tens of millions. So see, when you start looking at the stats on this, you know, it doesn't change much. And the weird thing about it is these numbers are numbers that, you know, we constantly look at. They don't change that much. They don't change that much at all. You know, the average cost of you know, student graduates for student loans is $24,000. That always wavers. It's in between $24,000 and $26,000. Just the fact that, you know, incoming freshmen have 3 to 4 credit cards. Then here's Jeremy. How did I get to this point in my life? Our students need help, and the students must begin with the end in mind in order to be financially successful. So we can't just teach our students about science, math, English, and things like that and hope that, you know, we're doing a good thing. We've got to teach them how to be more engaged in their financial world. It's a financial house you're going to build, and education is the foundation. And if you have a weak foundation in the house, your house will collapse. So, you know, one of the things I really like to do is help students build a very strong foundation in understanding for their money, respect for the money, and, you know, how to save it, how to keep it, and how to make it work for them. So that foundation to me for college students rallies around 5 very strong pillars. And for our students, it's income and financial aid. Now, I know some of you may not believe me, but students have a tendency to believe that financial aid is income. And financial aid is not income. And the bad part about it is credit card companies now take financial aid as income. That's a crime. That's a crime. And see, there is a difference. Income means you got to go out and work for it. Financial aid, you still working for it, but it's given directly to you. It's pretty much cash in your hand. Checking and savings, we always want to talk about that, where to hold your cash. You know, what's the interest rate on your checking account? Is it a student account where you have 0%, checking fees, where you get free checks and things like that? Or are you banking at an institution that's charging you for checks, charging you for savings, charging you for every transaction you do? Guide students to student accounts as long as they're a student, because there are fringe benefits to that. So yes, we look for the institutions that rally around our students, that have student accounts. We work really closely with an institution to help our students with credit cards. And we make sure that, you know, they're not putting themselves in a hole. We do the education with them as well. Cash management, I mean, there are several ways to track your income and cash wisely. Everybody's different. It just needs to be done. It doesn't have to be fancy. You could get a pen and a piece of paper and do the math and be okay. But if not, you have Mint, you have Excel spreadsheets, you have different ways to manage that. It doesn't have to be complicated, just whatever works for you. And, you know, credit cards, I'm not going to tell you credit cards are bad, because they're not, right? There are advantages and disadvantages to credit cards, but if you don't know the two, then it's just a credit card, right? Because a credit card to your advantage can help you. We have students that use credit cards very strategically. Why does a student want a credit card? To establish credit. We used to tell students wait till their junior year, but it actually takes 2 years for students to establish credit. So, you know, when freshmen are coming in the door, we're talking to them right away, because most of them have them anyway, right? So we want to have that conversation with them and tell them the advantages, you know, to be able to build credit, learning how to pay your bills on time, those little things, which aren't really little to me, they're very big. And the disadvantages, don't pay your bills on time, you know, you can get into a world of trouble, right? And in some situations, they come in our office and that's exactly what it is, right? And so we have to find a way to help them. Credit history is a big piece that we don't talk about, but you know, it's important to keep a clean financial record, right? Because when they go and apply for jobs later on, when they graduate, at the end of the day, somebody is going to do a background check on them. And, you know, if you're not looking financially responsible on paper, what makes you think anyone wants to hire you, So, there's a big picture here. We all know when you go and fill out, a job application, they're going to have you sign a little piece of paper that says, hey, we're going to go check your credit history. We're going to see how you're doing, right? So no, that's a big piece. And, sometimes I really believe for students, we have to keep it in little snippets. It does need to be small, short educational moments, and getting in front of our students, as often as possible to reiterate the importance of money management and, being able to stay committed and staying at the university. As institutions, we want students to come to our institutions, but we want them to graduate. We want them to graduate, not fall out because they can't pay the bill, right? So that financial education to me is just very important. And it's the little nuances and the everyday journeys, the day-to-day winning is what's going to help them in the long journey. Just little wins every day, being able to say, no, I don't need that, but I do need to have a pair of shoes. Now I need a pair of shoes. They don't have to be red bottom shoes. I just need a pair of shoes, right? But understanding those little things, and you'd be surprised because most of the time students don't understand. They just spend the money. And then when they don't have any, then it's like, oh, I better call my parents, because my bank account has got down to $1.25. And we want them to be a little more strategic in that manner. So money is a huge part of the puzzle. And like I said, I think, financial aid and financial literacy, I think they both work together because one issues the money, but the other part educates. And I truly believe that, the institution that really figures this out and understands that if you can do some financial coaching on the front end, college financial planning on the front end, that I guarantee you your retention rate is going to be, it'll get better because they're planning to graduate and not hoping to graduate. Because see, hope is a poor strategy. So the way we've kind of constructed this, we wanted to put a little more financial aid in it, just so you guys can see how, working and managing the money part of what we do, how important and significant it is. When you put the two together, man, it's a match made in heaven. When you can get the money and then know how to manage it and manage it intensively to the point of graduation, then, then we win. But to me, until they graduate, we haven't won. So we've got to stay in the fight for education. We've got to stay in the fight for financial literacy, just being able to understand the day-to-day, nuances of what it takes to go to college, right? College is expensive. It's only two ways to pay for college. You can either save for it or you taking out student loans. And that's the reality of attending universities in this day and time. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to my colleague, Ivy. So Ivy, you can do your thing.
Thank you, Leticia.
You're welcome.
Well, we all have the basic understanding that FAFSA can provide some federal financial assistance. It can also assist colleges with awarding the institutional need-based grants and scholarships as well. So let's talk about how to apply. Okay. So the first thing the students will need to do is create an FSA ID and password. This is their electronic signature for all the Department of Education documents. It can also not only be used for FAFSA, but they can use it for other sites like studentaid.gov and NSLDS as well. If you're working with a dependent student, make sure that a parent creates the FSA ID and password as well. To do so, the student and the parent, they should go to the FSAID.ed.gov and complete the basic information. And once that is completed, the student is able to start the FAFSA. So to complete the FAFSA, the student will log on, go back one more. The student will log on to the FAFSA.gov. Make sure you prepare the student with the correct school year that they'll need to complete. Certain periods of the year, there'll be 2 different applications available. like right now, we're in the 2020, 2021 school year, but we're also preparing for the 2021, 2022 year. So both of them are available, and sometimes students get confused on which application they need to complete for which school year. So also prepare the student and the parent with the information needed for the FAFSA, like the social security number, the date of birth, the legal name, not, nicknames, but, for both the student and the parents. Also the correct tax return that's needed. So an example, for the 2021-22 school year, they'll need the 2019 tax return and W-2s for that. Also, if you have an undocumented parent, make sure they use all zeros for their social security number. Things like that will help the FAFSA process. Encourage student and parent to apply early. You can file the FAFSA as early as October 1st. So last October 1st for this upcoming FAFSA application. Many schools, they have priority deadlines and limited funding that's available for different aid programs. So students generally need to file their FAFSA by these priority dates so the schools can consider them for that limited funded aid program. You can still generally submit the FAFSA after that priority deadline. However, meeting that priority date will ensure the student that they will be considered for that limited funded aid. The FAFSA takes a little bit of time to fill out, so families should carve out about 30 to 40 minutes, especially if it's their first time filling it out. So students and families can save the FAFSA, they come back to it later before they officially submit it. And we encourage them to save after each page that they're doing so that if the information is not lost or accidentally, they're actually logged out, or if there's a technical issue, things like that. Encourage the student that IRS data retrieval tool to minimize mistakes on the FAFSA, to speed up the financial aid process at their school. Using this IRS data retrieval can minimize the amount of paperwork required to complete for verification or other processes down the road. So the IRS data retrieval tool is available for the 2022, 21, 22 FAFSA. And then also social security errors are the only errors the schools can't fix. So again, we encourage them to take their time to report accurately. But if a student does make a mistake in reporting their social security number on the FAFSA, they will need to submit FAFSA correction to correct that issue. So let's talk about the types of aid. Okay, so let's first start with free money. A grant is a form of financial aid that doesn't have to be repaid. Variety of federal grants are available, including Pell Grants, the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, Teacher Education Assistance for College and Higher Education, better known as the TEACH grant, the Iraq and Afghanistan service grants. The most popular one is the Pell Grant. So the federal Pell Grant are awarded only to undergraduate students who display exceptional financial need and have not earned a bachelor's degree or graduate or professional degree. This award changes yearly. So the maximum federal Pell Grant award is $6,345 for this current school year, 2021. And that is if you have a 0 EFC. So the amount you get will depend on these things: your expected family contribution, the cost of attendance determined by the school for that specific program, the status that you're enrolled in. So if you're full-time, you're part-time, you're three-quarter time. If you plan to attend a full academic year or less, like go one semester versus 2, things like that. Then we have the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. And the Financial Aid Office will award the FSEOG to students that have the most financial need as well. So, which will be determined by completing the FAFSA. The FSEOG grant doesn't need to be repaid, and you can receive between about $100 to $4,000 a year, depending on financial need, when you apply, the amount of other aid that you get, and the availability of funds at your school. So it's important to submit your FAFSA by the school's priority deadline and receive this grant if you're eligible. Another one, the Kansas Comprehensive Grant, is also a need-based grant that's funded by the state of Kansas. Recipients must be enrolled in an undergraduate degree-seeking program, and it's available for needy Kansas residents enrolled full-time at 18 private colleges and universities located in Kansas and 6 state universities and Washburn University. So typically the annual amounts are between $50 to about $1,500. So that's like free money. So now let's talk about borrowing some money. There are 2 main types of loans when we talk about student loans. There's the federal and then there's the private. So let's start with the federal loans. The U.S. Department of Education's Federal Student Loan Program is the W.D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program. So under this program, the U.S. Department of Education is the lender. And so there's 3 main types of direct loans available. So you have your direct subsidized loans. You see, these loans, they're made to eligible undergraduate students who demonstrate financial need to cover costs of higher education at their college. Also, this loan does not accrue interest while in school attending at least 6 credit hours. Now, the direct unsubsidized loans are loans made eligible to undergraduate students, graduate students, and professional students. But eligibility is not based on financial need. And also, unlike the subsidized loans, this loan will accrue interest as soon as the loan is dispersed. Okay, and then the next federal loan is the Direct Plus loan, and are loans that are made to graduate and professional students and parents of dependent undergraduate students to help pay for educational expenses that's not covered by any other financial aid. And so the eligibility is not based on federal or financial need, but a credit check is required. And so borrowers will have to have an adverse credit history, and they must meet additional requirements to qualify. So these direct loans will have the direct subsidized and unsubsidized, and the plus loan, they'll have a fixed interest rate that will change each school year. And the updated interest rate will be posted by July 1. So the direct subsidized and unsubsidized interest rate for the 2021 year is 2.75. And the plus loan is a 5.3%. So how much can you borrow in these federal loans? Good question. So if you have an undergraduate student, the maximum amount you can borrow each year in the direct subsidized loans and direct unsubsidized loans, they can range between $5,500 and $12,500 per year. Okay, so it depends on what year you are in school and your dependency status. So here's an example. You have a freshman independent student, they can borrow up to $5,500. Then over here, you have a freshman independent student, they could borrow up to $9,500. If you're a parent of a dependent undergraduate student, you could receive a direct plus loan for the remainder of your child's college costs as determined by the school. That's not covered by the financial aid. Okay. Then we have private loans. So the private alternative unsubsidized loans provide an additional way for students to obtain educational loans through a variety of lenders, such as banks and federal institutions, not the federal government. most schools will have a preferred lender list, which a lender list is just suggested lenders that the school has researched, or have worked with in the past that they would recommend. When applying for private loans, they often require an established credit record or cosigner. So private loans can have a variable or a fixed rate, which may be higher or lower than the rates on the federal loans, depending on your circumstances or your credit. Okay. Another source would be the federal work study. So the work study provides a part-time job available to full-time or part-time students, undergraduate and graduate students with financial need. So it allows them to get paid hourly and to help pay their educational expenses. So the program encourages community service work and work related to the student's course of study. So the amount that you can earn can exceed your total financial or your federal work study award. When assigning the work hours, the employer or the school financial aid office can consider the class schedule and the academic progress for that student. And then there's scholarships. So students are able to apply for the institutional or outside scholarships. You know, some scholarships for college are merit-based. You earn them by meeting or exceeding certain standards set by the scholarship giver. So merit scholarships may be awarded based on academic achievement or a combination of academics, special talents, traits, or just their interests. Other scholarships are based on financial need or athletic ability, but many scholarships are geared toward particular groups of people. For instance, there's scholarships for women or graduate students. And some are available because of where a parent works or because a student comes from a certain background. For instance, there's scholarships for military families. So the scholarships, they may cover the entire cost of the tuition, or it may be a one-time award, you know, for a few $100s. But either way, it's worth applying for because it'll help reduce the cost of their education. So make sure the student is aware of the scholarship priority deadline, because missing deadline is missing money. And I tell students all the time, you know, always, you know, keep applying for different scholarships. Just keep researching and just sending them out, even though, you know, but you're not going to know until you try. And the more that you apply for, the more likely you are to get a scholarship. Okay. So now that we reviewed the FAFSA application process and most of the different types of financial aid, let's just take a few minutes and meet some of the students that you may be assisting through this process. So right now, I want you just to close your eyes and I want you to visualize 3 senior students coming in your office. Okay. So first, I want you to meet Demetrius. He's a star football player with a 3.0 GPA. He's had several college offers for full tuition and books. He lived with his father until he was about 17 years old. And then his father was sent to prison. His mother, she's not in the picture since he was 5. He's lived with many family members. And then he went to a friend's house, just couch surfing. So he qualified for the McKinney-Vento, the Homeless Assistance Act. And so his freshman year, he would qualify as an independent student with that McKinney-Vento. Next, I want you to meet Maria. Now, Maria, she has a 3.8 GPA. And she's currently taking, you know, mostly honors classes. Her parents are undocumented. They're from Mexico, but she's a US citizen. And so she will be a first-generation college student. And her parents have no funds put away for her tuition, and they're barely making ends meet. Okay. Now, finally, I want you to meet Zach. Now, Zach is just average student, 2.5 GPA from a middle-class family, mom and dad. And, you know, the FAFSA doesn't find him in any financial need. His parents, they did put away money in a 504, but they have other children in college as well, okay? So when we think about helping these students with very unique and diverse situations, we want to use the resources that can assist you. So it's important that you first have them complete the FAFSA and apply for scholarships. But then you also want to apply other resources to assist you as well. So let's look at the college scorecard. I have a student, Malcolm. Let's say he comes to your office. So this page that you see now, it shows the first few results for Malcolm, who searched Kansas as a state he's going to be searching for college. And he can search for schools by the program, degree, location, like the state or the zip code, the size of the school, name, type of institution, whether it's a private, a public, a for-profit, a religious base, I mean, all that. This website shows you an average annual cost, graduation rate, and the starting salary after attendance. So look at the bottom under each college where it says, where you can click for more details. There is a further breakdown on the financial aid and debt, the student body profile, the SAT, ACT scores, and the academic programs. So that's a great resource. Next, another resource is the My College Money Plan. So there are some tools as educators you can use to help your students. Students can set up a profile. Students can go through modules that teach them about applying for scholarships, applying for the FAFSA, making sure that they have enough aid to cover their expenses, creating a financial plan for college, and even how to avoid identity theft. So educators, you can also use this resource. The site provides lesson plans for you to cover a variety of topics, such as exploring college opportunities, exploring college cost, the FAFSA, building the financial plan, which is the next slide, and even learning about credit and debt. So
and let me jump in real quick, Ivy, because the picture you're looking at, the way this kind of runs, it runs like a red light, green light kind of version. And so what happens is students will go in and fill out the information that's being requested of them. And it will land either in the green. And if it's in the green, then that means it's a go. If it's yellow, then that means you're taking out some student loans and you're paying for some. So it's a kind of a cautious kind of thing. Now, once you get into the red, then that means you're taking out Parent Plus loans and things like that. And that's where, to me, you start having the conversation of, can you afford to be at this college? And see, it's affordability, and affordability is what you can afford. It's not what someone else is doing. So I use this a lot, thanks to Wichita State. Back, I want to say it's been about 9 years, 10 years now, when this was actually created. And it's just been a wonderful tool. It's just, you really have to use it. If you use it with your students, it will generate good conversation about affordability. Can you afford to be at this college?
that's great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, the next slide, it just kind of goes over how the student can create a worksheet for college plans and financial plans that they can be doing while advising on different colleges. So let's go to the cash course.
And this is just a visual of what the college search looks like, where they will actually stick their information in, institution, the types of worksheets that are out there for them, that can be used. And, you know, it can be used with a group of students or individuals as well.
So this is a cash course, and it is a student's real life money guide to becoming a financial expert. So you can assist with lessons to your students, and students will be guided through each lesson as they learn about different topics, spanning the entire array of the financial literacy. And the best part about it is it's absolutely free.
Yes. And iGrad, if the institution purchases iGrad, it's pretty expensive, but you can go out to the iGrad website and they can use the information and tools that are out there for free. And I'm always trying to look for, because you know, when our office started, money was always kind of an issue. So, you know, I try to do things that are free for students.
Mhm.
So you can use the iGrad website without paying. Use it with our students as far as videos and just using the tools that are out there. And the cash course is really good. I think this is going to be the last year of the cash course. I think they're on sunset. But the information out there and the life money guide is just really comprehensive, and it's student oriented, meaning students can pick up the information and read it and they understand it. It's not a lot of jargon and acronyms and things like that, which makes it a really nice source.
Yeah. So next we just have several more resources that will help prepare your students just to be more successful financially. Studentaid.gov or studentaid.ed.gov, sorry, is a great website for anyone to learn about the federal financial aid options and their processes. They have information on how to get started, what each option is, the requirements, guidelines on eligibility, a repayment estimator for loans. So this is just your go-to for most of your financial aid questions, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Financial Aid Toolkit. It's a great government website for all parties to learn about the financial aid. So for students, families, high school counselors, you can search for resources by the type, your audience topic, time of year. So they have a sample of different PowerPoints, informational worksheets, messages for social media and emails, and so much more on there. Also the net price calculator. So the federal law mandates that each school have a net price calculator on their website. So you can encourage schools to use this net price calculator to figure out how much they will be receiving in scholarships, grants, loans, work studies, and their out-of-pocket costs. So when a student clicks on that net price calculator, they'll enter in the different demographics, financial and academic information. Did you want to speak a little bit more on that net price calculator, Leticia?
Basically, it's just the same thing. It's just a way to calculate and do the math prior to the event. I think if more people would prepare to enter the doorway of universities, they would do better. I'm always going to say, engage your students in the process, because if the students are out there doing the math, they'll be more in touch. But the net price calculator is out there to help you do the math and figure out what you can and cannot afford. And, you know, I say, you know, in financial hard times, we really have to rally around our students right now, because they just need help understanding the math.
Right. So other great resources is our website, casfa.org, and our national website, nasfa.org. So, which is also a great tools to help you and your students through this whole process. And there's more workshops coming up. So February 16th, there's Financial Aid 102, the post-FAFSA process.
Yes, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
So one, let me see, I think that's our last one. I come out of the stop share mode. So whew, that is so nice. I get to see everybody. Okay, you guys, I was the presenter, so I had the screen and I had to look at the screen the whole time and it about drove me crazy. Now I can see your faces and really say, hey, look, you guys get intimate with your students, help them do the math because they need it, whether they ask you for it or not. Do everything we can to raise the bar for our students. It's tough. I mean, I know it's tough, and I work very closely with our financial aid department here. And between the two of us, you know, we really kind of make that balance. But I can't say enough about the importance, and I'm not just going to talk to students about the importance of understanding your finances, whether you are a student, whether you faculty, whether you staff, it doesn't matter. You know, rally around it, because once you get around it, you know, it will make a difference. And, you know, we really don't realize how we impact and how we touch students' lives until they come back and tell us, right? They come back and tell us, oh, Miss Leticia, if it hadn't have been for you, I wouldn't have graduated. Or, you know, thank you for pushing me when I was giving up on myself because I didn't think I had the money or the fortitude, right? So be out there and be strong. Have as many programs as possible where your students can be engaged and you know, rally around understanding the math. I can't say it any simpler than that, is that, you know, we've got to start putting the numbers down on paper, and our students have to be a little more responsive to understanding the money they bring to the table and the money that they're going to borrow. And understanding, you know, parents can take out Parent Plus loans. That's great. But see, on the flip side of that, you don't want to be 60 years old with $150,000 in Parent Plus loans. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, I do orientation, you know, at KU as well, and have for many years. And, you know, just having those conversations with parents that want to pull out of their 401k to send their kids to school. I'm like, look, your student can take out a student loan, but you can't take out a loan to retire. So it's a balance. And I believe when that balance is there and our students aren't stressing over how they're going to pay, and they understand what they're going to pay and what is expected of them, I guarantee you retention rates all over university institutions will come up. It's just when students land and they don't know how to pay, then, you know, we have to help them. So I'm very adamant about, you know, one, being in front of students in a positive way like that, even before I'm in the high schools, even before they get there, because that's where it makes a difference. If you can land on that college campus and say, listen, I know I have this to spend, and I know it's going to take me, you know, $200 a month to live on my personal, and that's everything I want to do. I've bought my books, you know, and I'm good. And I got my meal plan down, so that means I can eat, right? Then you see the impact and the power of what we do, right? But it's also another side of that when we really don't, or when they can't, and then we have to tell them, you can't go here. But see, when they're engaged and they make those decisions and they make it on affordability and not on popularity, then education is affordable. It's all about choices, right? The choices we make or the choices we choose. It doesn't matter, but it's all up to us. And, you know, if you can get into an institution and graduate with little or no student loan debt, I'm telling you, tell your students the scholarship like it's their job, not just on their way into an institution, but once you get in that institution, you know, continue to look for money. Free money is wonderful. We just have to look at it and we have to look for it. So I know we've been kind of talking a whole lot, but wanted to give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions.
You all feel free to unmute yourselves and ask questions as you have them, or you can put your questions in the chat and we can read them out for you. I guess I'll ask a question of you all. I'm curious to know, in your schools or in your positions where you're working with high school students or those preparing to go to college, what strategies do you currently have in place? And what are you seeing success in? Maybe share a little bit with each other.
This is Jennifer from Deerfield, Southwest Kansas. Not the end of the world, but you can see it from here. Actually, this is my first year in this position as the college and career guidance counselor, whatever. This is a brand new position we brought forward. So I'm really learning as I go. But one of the resources I kind of clinged on to at the beginning of the year is Going Merry. It has a free side and a pay side. And so the free side is scholarships. They put in their main information, their GPA, those kinds of things, their ethnicity, stuff about their parents, and it generates scholarships just based on that general stuff, nationwide, statewide, and I can put in the local scholarships, and the kids can go in and start seeing. It will automatically, it's really cool. As soon as they sign up and put, according to what you've input for your profile, you are eligible for $439,000 in scholarships. So it's kind of this like big number all the time. And it's huge. And the kids are like, wow, but they can go in and they can select and they can look at the requirements, and it fills in all the information from their profile originally. And so they just have to do like the essays or the questions and those kinds. So they're not doing all the same things over and over again. It's been an awesome resource, and the scholarship side is completely free. So that's super amazing. And that's been really good just to kind of keep up with scholarships. And so I have 2 or 3 kids that applied for Amazon scholarships, and they got $500 scholarships and stuff like that. So that I didn't even know existed. Like I don't know all the things. So it's kind of nice. I know the local scholarships, and that was about it. So I like it.
Jennifer, if you could, thank you very much for that information. That's just always exciting. One thing I really like is when we all get together, we learn about new different, things. If you could drop that website into the chat box, and then everybody will get that website, and we're probably going to just click away on it. That's awesome. I'm really excited about that.
The paid side is linked. Okay, so the reason all the scholarship stuff is free is these big conglomerates like T-Mobile, Amazon pay for their scholarships to be on this website, and so they cover the fees for the scholarships, like those kinds of things. The paid side is a step-by-step, super amazing guided FAFSA sign-up process. They've partnered with FAFSA. It's step-by-step. They have a little character that guides them through. It really helped my Spanish-speaking families because it had pictures of like their IRS forms. It highlighted, this is the box that we're talking about. This is what I need right here. Look on this form for this and that kind of thing. And it highlighted it step by step. When you're done with it on the Going Merry side, it links it to the FAFSA site and finishes up the process and submits it to it. We're a very small school. We decided to try it this year. We only have 9 seniors. It's $10 a student. Our school covered the cost of that just so we could see how it worked. Usually the financial aid nights here are like 3 hours long by the time you help all the families and stuff like that. I had 8 students with their parents here. We were here for about an hour and 20 minutes total. And they all got finished with it in the same night using that program. So it's optional. You don't have to pay for, you can get the scholarship side of it for free completely, but the FAFSA side of it was super nice for extra support, because I know sometimes that's a very overwhelming, even for me. I'm in grad school. When I had to do that originally again for the first time in umpteen million years, I was super lost and it read like stereo instructions. So it was nice when I was going through it with my kids. It just made it so simple for them. So it's $10 per student. They can't offer that for free because of the federal part of it for FAFSA. So they made this agreement with FAFSA for $10. So
I would offer just a note of caution anytime any service is having you pay to complete the FAFSA application. It sounds like that's a useful tool and your school is using it wisely. But I would offer caution to promoting that to parents or students. Anytime you have to pay for a service to complete the FAFSA, it just sends a little bit of a flag up in my mind. And maybe I'm alone. I don't know, Leticia or Ivory, if you want to speak to that at all, but just be cautious in how you promote those.
I understand. The other part of that was it was bilingual. We have a lot of Spanish speaking and I can't translate for them. So that was part of the reason for the service too. We had 8 seniors, 6 of them have Spanish speaking parents. So it was a useful resource. Totally understand that. We had that discussion. I met with the founder of Going Merry, Charlie Maynard. We had several conversations about that. We could have done it completely free and done it just through the site, but I needed the bilingual stuff to support my families, and my administrators agreed that was the purpose of purchasing it for us. So,
and that's a good point, Whitney. It's because here's the thing. And this sounds bad, but I used to work for FAFSA.com. I know you guys, if you've been in financial aid long enough, you remember FAFSA.com. Shh, don't tell nobody. Brenda, don't tell nobody. Shh, don't tell nobody. But yeah, as a matter of fact, in FAFSA.com used to be right down the street in Lawrence at the golf superintendent building. But so I know, and I don't advocate that, but it sounds like you guys really have a plan for using it. And anytime you're strategic and tactical about it, then it works. But, if you're actually paying for things like that, vet it. But I think, that could be a wonderful site for, students that maybe, but I'm going to say always be cautious of having to pay. If you could use the free site and still gather that, then go for it, because it sounds like something really robust and worthy. So I'm definitely going to check it out.
I want to add on the Johnson County Community College website, we post different databases searches for outside scholarships, and I'll put that in the comment box. So if you are a college student or high school going into college, you can utilize this, and you don't have to attend Johnson County Community College. You can attend anywhere. But let me just share that with you. I know someone had asked for different scholarship sites for college students as well, like current college students. And these all are free sites.
There are some questions in the chat regarding scholarships and when would you all advise high school students to start looking for scholarships, and what other resources do you have for those?
So you want to basically look at those deadlines. When you start high school, at least senior year, I would suggest, if not your junior year, to prepare for your senior year. I know, Leticia, you work with high schools.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, you guys wouldn't believe it or not, but I tell them start your freshman year. If you have some idea of what it is you want to do, start looking your freshman year, because that'll give you time, 1, to research, 2, to figure out the requirements that are needed. If you're a freshman and you need a 3-point whatever, then you know that and you can work towards that. So that means you're preparing for success. So I would start as early as possible to give your students the maximum amount of time to be able to, 1, prepare apply and be able to, you know, just totally max that money thing out. Because we all know college is expensive. So I'm going to say scholarships, even when they're here, I'm like scholarship, scholarship, scholarship. So get on that bandwagon, be vigilant about it, help them with whatever they need, start them early. When they come through the door, you know, I'm like this. The question is, do you plan to go to college? Okay. And if you don't plan to go to college, you still need to know about money management. So get in the group. So, you know.
That just brings me up. Actually I have a freshman in high school now, and I just got an email from his school. He goes to school in Olathe regarding Casey Scholars. So if you're not aware of it, I can post their website on there, but that's another scholarship source as well. And they start as early as freshman year applying for that for a different type of scholarships that they have.
Excellent.
On another note, Leticia, we've had a request that you share the source for the slide. The numbers tell the story.
Okay, I have to go back to my original slide and grab those stats. I don't have them with me right now.
Okay. We had a question in the chat. Roxana, I don't know if you want to expand a little bit on your question. Yes, can you go into undocumented parents, please? Are you referring to FAFSA completion with undocumented parents, or are you talking about scholarship opportunities, or how to counsel students who have other languages in their house?
Mostly interested in the FAFSA side of undocumented parents.
Okay, and that's something that really this particular session wasn't geared towards, but we do have several other resources out available. If you go back and watch on the CASPA site, the first session that was offered on FAFSA 101, and then also our unique student situations, we do address those in there. But if you have some specific questions, you're welcome to email me directly, and we can talk through some of those as you have them.
Okay, I know each situation is unique, but it just is, I always feel is a stumbling block for my students, and I feel like I hit a brick wall and I don't know how to help my students. I'm a TRIO person. I'm not necessarily in financial aid, but I'm definitely a part of my students' financial aid endeavors. So
yeah, definitely. I think those first two sessions, if you weren't able to watch them, will be helpful to you. But we'll be happy to answer those questions if you've got them. If you want to email me, I've been the one that's been sending like the meeting reminders and stuff. So you can just reach out to me through that email if you'd like.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Roxana, I attended the unique students one that they had, and that's probably where you're going to find your most information, because I was dealing with that with one of my students as well this year. So that's the one that I would say check out first for your situation.
The unique one. Okay. It was full when I
I think they opened up another one, or so I don't remember, but I got on another one, I think.
Okay.
So but that was
Zoom, as we've got them all recorded and out there for you. So
super.
It had a lot of information for me.
Okay, thank you. I will certainly watch that.
what other questions do you all have as we wrap up our time here together for Ivory and Leticia regarding financial literacy and financial planning for students?
Well, I will go ahead and put my email address in the chat. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Or you can give me a call, either one. I know this was kind of like drinking out of a fire hydrant, but it's always fun to get that information out there. So I will put my information in the chat for everybody.
I'll do the same as well.
There was one other question. I think I skipped over it. I apologize, Lacey. Has there been any change for students whose parents didn't file taxes as far as them being able to get loans? Ivory, do you want to just address that really quick?
Yeah, so if a parent, let's say they should have filed a tax return and chose not to, then the student will not be eligible for financial aid. Now, if a parent is refusing to complete the FAFSA, then we could do a professional judgment And that student can get aid, without the parent's information, but it would be an unsubsidized loan. So we talked about subsidized and unsubsidized. It would only be eligible for that unsubsidized loan. And no grants, it would just be that unsubsidized loan.
I would stress too, just because of the way you worded that question, Lacey, it's not necessarily tied to the parents not filing taxes, because a lot of parents aren't required to file taxes. So you can have a non-tax filer still complete the FAFSA application, indicate that they didn't file taxes, and their student can get aid. It's for those that maybe didn't file taxes and they were required to, that then becomes a problem. Or like Ivory was addressing, when they just simply refuse to complete the FAFSA application.
And that's what happened with a student, is that the father owned their own business and didn't file taxes the past like 3 years. And so the student could not get any financial aid whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, I think there's probably more parents out there than we know that don't file taxes when they should, that is hurting these kids, and they can't. And so I just wondered if, there was any way around that.
Unfortunately, at this time, there is not. It is a requirement that if you're required to file taxes, that you do so. It's a taxpayer benefit of sorts. So that is one thing that does have to be in place. And you're right, we do run into that quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions before we close this up? Well, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Leticia. Thank you, Ivory. I really appreciate your time. You guys did a wonderful job. I'm going to send out the evaluation here in a few minutes. Please give us your best feedback, honest feedback. We want to obviously offer things that you want, and we want to make our time well spent here. So we look forward to hearing from you. And if you are signed up for our next session, it's not too late to do so. If you want to jump in on the FAFSA after, or the awarding process after the FAFSA, it's basically everything that comes after that student submits that FAFSA application. That registration is still open out on our website. So go join us for that one if you'd like to, coming up in February. You guys have a great day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.